Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg, and today we're playing some Bloodborne, which I've played a number of times, including multiple times on camera, I believe. But this one is going to be a little different, because this time we're going to be playing through the game, focusing on the lore and the story, plot elements, character backgrounds, things like that. Particularly and specifically in their relation and their inspiration to the Cthulhu mythos. The reason I'm doing this is twofold. One is because I have nothing else to play. And two, recently I passed the Patreon goal for the Exploring series to make the Cthulhu Mythos in Bloodborne video, the long-awaited video. And so, you know, since this game was first announced, people have continually discussed how it's very Lovecraftian in nature, it's inspired by Lovecraft, you know, there's things that are, like, similar to the mythos and, you know, cosmic horror and all that, but what I want to do with my planned video is to look at things and give all the specific examples that I can of things that seem to be most closely inspired or most similar to elements of the Cthulhu mythos. Now, the mythos is very broad, and, you know, it's very freeform. If Miyazaki came out and said, yeah, Bloodborne is set, it's in the Cthulhu mythos, it's part of the Cthulhu mythos. Okay, I mean, you can't really argue with him, so yes, sure, it's all in the Cthulhu mythos. But since he has not done that, I'm going to try to look at as many things as possible, and relate them to sort of the core concepts and elements of the mythos, pretty much as outlined in my series of videos. Some of the things are going to be very clear, very obvious, like, you know, the the sort of swampy water village in the DLC is very, you know, much inspired by Deep Ones, I think. Ebritas, visually, when you first see it, very similar to Cthulhu. Things like this are fairly obvious, and you can see the inspiration. Other things I'm going to be making pretty much a complete stretch. Almost more as like entertainment than really something that I could ever prove. But we're going to see how that goes. So, yeah, this playthrough is probably going to be a little slow, I think. Because I'm probably going to be stopping to discuss things along the way. I don't even know if I'm going to finish this playthrough. My goal is to have that video done by Christmas. And so if I finish this playthrough, great. If not, it's not a big deal. It's really just to help me soliloquize, if that's a word, my thoughts about the about what's happening here and the story and different elements and things like that. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Pale blood. Well, you've come to the right place. Yharnam is the home of blood ministration. You need only unravel its mystery. But where's an outsider like yourself to begin? Easy, with a bit of Yharnam blood of your own. But first, you'll need a contract.
Okay. So, to begin with, my first connection is that character, who's known as the Blood Minister, is Nyarlathotep. And I know, I have a history of just saying everybody is Nyarlathotep in disguise. But if I have to pick a singular character in the entire game that I think most closely resembles Nyarlathotep, I think it's that guy. Because he is the impetus of your character's entire story, your entire journey. Like, he is the reason that your shit starts and you go through all these series of events. He gives you the Yharnam blood treatment, which sort of allows you to become a hunter, and actually, you know, you're capable of doing these actions and defeating these monsters and going through the story. So without that, you'd be shit out of luck. You'd just be a regular guy. And the other thing is, the concept of pale blood. Pale blood is a bit of a mystery. I think there's a note in Bergenworth, and a lot of people think that another name for the moon presence is pale blood. And so what I'm trying to think of is, like, if that is Nyarlathotep, let's say it is, and he is the one that kickstarts your character's journey, and possibly, like, you know, all of these hunters' journeys, you know, if we, I mean, play with the notion that everybody playing this game, you know, if it's all sort of connected, and the same Nyarlathotep is responsible for sending all these hunters on this journey, what does he want? What is his goal? Why would he want you on this quest to go through this whole series of events? And so you really have to look at the endings. So there are 3 different endings to the game. One, I mean, yeah, spoilers, I guess. One is that basically you just submit your life to Gehrman. He kills you, and you wake up from the dream to a new day. Alternatively, some people think that you actually are put into a dream at that point, and it's a new day. But either way, I don't think that that's what this Nyarlathotep's goal is. To be killed by Gehrman, and just basically nothing happens. The next ending is you refusing Gehrman, you don't submit your life, and you fight Gehrman. And presumably you kill him. Now, this is a possibility. This could be what Nyarlathotep would want, because my contention is, of course, that Gehrman is equivalent to Nodens. To the point of, you know, I used Gehrman's theme song in my Nodens video, and a lot of people were like, yeah, right, it's really fine to Googling Nodens and my video pops up. That's still a really weird feeling, but you know, Nodens is styled and described as, like, the great hunter, the greatest of hunters. And so, you know, if you're gonna connect anything to the Cthulhu mythos from this game, and you're talking about the concept of a great hunter, there's only one thing in the Cthulhu mythos that it could possibly mean, and that's Nodens. Now, Nodens, of course, is also a Celtic deity associated with hunting, but you know, we're trying to attach everything to the Cthulhu mythos here. So Nodens, the old the elder god, the great hunter, who is also sort of the protector of the Dreamlands in a way. He hunts down creatures in the Dreamlands, and he sort of is not immediately hostile to a human. Okay, so he's often seen as, I mean, good and evil, of course, is kind of ridiculous, but just a less immediately combative deity in the mythos. So we're gonna call him a good guy. Whatever, we'll call him a good guy. And I don't think you can really call Gehrman a good guy either, because his motivations and things like that are just as mysterious as Nodin's are. But Nodin is very clearly focused on, chasing down, hunting creatures in the Dreamlands that he believes oppose them. And specifically, he is opposed to Nyarlathotep. So this Blood Minister, if I'm going to style him as Nyarlathotep, if he did have the goal of defeating Gehrman, of having Gehrman killed in some way, but he has no way of going to the what the hell? I don't know what the dream house, whatever that is called up there, where Gehrman is and the doll is. If he has no way of getting there and interacting with it, he's going to need somebody that can. And so that could be, of course, you. How exactly you can go up there and interact with Gehrman and the doll and things like that in that region, that's something I'm a little less clear on. The Hunter's Dream. Yeah, that's what it's called. Because you go there when you die, right? When you first die, you get sent there. But you can also not die and just go to the Lantern and go straight there anyways. And, you never see anybody else there except for the doll, Gehrman, and the little Princess Mononoke little things. Whatever they're called. Something with a K, I think. The Bath Messengers in this game. So yeah, I'm a little unclear on what exactly allows you specifically to go there. But for whatever reason, you don't see any Blood Ministers there, right? So you also don't see any just great old ones or whatever just running up on it. Now, you do find the Moon Presence there at the end, but that's only after you've killed Gehrman, who is the sort of guardian of the Hunter's Dream. And so it's I'm either going to go with he just wants Gehrman dead. But it's a question of, why exactly does he want Gehrman dead? And so to follow up with that, he wants Gehrman dead because once he is, that opens up the Hunter's Dream to clearly some, the great old ones, the outer gods, whatever, they can suddenly access it. Because as soon as Gehrman is dead, boom, the Moon Presence is there. And so I think the third ending, of course, is you kill Gehrman, but you've also used you have 3 umbilical cords. And basically you've become a great old one, in effect. And so with the second ending, when the Moon Presence shows up, he basically sucks you in, and pretty much you become the new Gehrman. And the third ending, if you've used all the umbilical cords, the Moon Presence rejects you for whatever reason because you are already a great old one or whatever, and you fight the Moon Presence. And if you kill the Moon Presence, with that ending, you become a true great old one. You become like a slug, and I guess it's in one of the trophy descriptions. I guess you actually become a great old one. So is that the Blood Minister, is that Nyarlathotep's ultimate goal, is to have an inside man that becomes a new, is he trying to create new great old ones? I mean, you kill things along the way that you'd think would be aligned with that. So, I mean, Nyarlathotep's motivations can, depending on your perspective, they can vary quite a bit. He can really just be sort of a bit more on the evilly playful side, or he could actually be trying to bring about the entire downfall of the planet. So it's hard to say at this point. Actually, let's call ourselves like explorer. Fit for sleuthing or academia. Perfect. That's what I want. Yeah, that's fine. I have more to say about Nyarlathotep, but we have another cinematic.
Good. All signed and sealed. Now, let's begin the transfusion. Oh, don't you worry. Whatever happens, you may think it all a mere bad dream.
You found yourself a hunter.
Okay. So a few things there. He says... Well, first of all, you know, he has you sign a contract, right? Which is already a little strange. You're becoming contracted to be a hunter. But, you know, of course, the devil is well known for having people sign contracts for their soul and things like that. So I don't know how much you want to read into that. You could be being contracted to kill Gehrman, but you know, since you have the option at the end of not killing him, that's hard to say. Now he says you may think, whatever happens, you may think this all a mere bad dream. And then you have what seems to be a hallucination of this bloody beast coming out of the ground, reaching toward you. Then it suddenly, for no reason, starts on fire. And then you're sort of approached by all these bath messengers. And then a voice says, you've found a hunter. You find yourself a hunter. I believe the voice is of the doll. Let me just check. Yeah, it's the doll. And so you know, the doll is really not explained, and so there are a huge number of fan theories about what the doll is. Some think that the doll itself is a great old one, or a host of a great old one, or anything like that. The host of the dream. And yeah, I mean, I agree the doll is a very mysterious figure. It's not really explained. Certainly something seems off about the doll. But I don't know if I can really relate it to anything in the mythos. Here's a comment. Since Gehrman is guiding us towards killing a Great One, and the Moon Presence is holding Gehrman captive for the purpose of guiding new hunters who enter the dream, it follows that the Moon Presence desires to slay other Great Ones. Okay. Well, if the Moon Presence is a hostile entity towards other Great Old Ones, and we're going to go with the sort of, we'll call it a vanilla theory, I suppose, that Nyarlathotep is, you know, the messenger of the outer gods. He is in league with them to allow them to enter the world and take it over, to bring it back to the old days. Then I could see Nyarlathotep and the Moon Presence being on different sides of the board, which may then mean that he does want you to go through all this to kill the Moon Presence and become a Great Old One that is contracted to Nyarlathotep, contracted to the other Great Old Ones. I guess I could make that argument. Now, at the very start, the first thing he says is yes, pale blood. And the way that he says it, it sounds as if you, the character, mentioned pale blood, and he's like, oh, yes, pale blood. Which seems to imply, and some people agree, that you, as this character, have come to Yharnam seeking pale blood. Unfortunately, there isn't really anything to back this up. You have no idea this character's, like, motivations. You're here. You're talking to this guy. You're on a table. You have no idea what's going on. Other people think that you came to Yharnam because you're sick. You have a sickness. Yharnam is known for its blood ministrations, its blood treatments that can heal any illness. And so they think, okay, you came here because you're sick. You get the blood treatments, but that doesn't really explain why suddenly you're going out and you're slaughtering all these things and you're doing this whole quest. There's not enough impetus there just because you were sick and now you've been treated. And so I guess it would be my contention that you didn't ask about pale blood. He made you think that you asked about pale blood. He put the concept of pale blood in your head, and I think that he left this note for you. I think this is his note saying to seek pale blood to transcend the hunt. And so now your character, now you're thinking about pale blood, and you think you came here to find pale blood, to find out what it is and what's going on, and that's sort of your impetus to continue going on. That's going to be my argument. So yeah, seek pale blood to transcend the hunt. And at this point, you as a player and you as a character have no idea what pale blood is. And you don't know what transcending the hunt means. You really are clueless, and I think your character is also clueless. So basically, yeah, you find yourself in this room. You really have no idea what you're doing here, or where to go, how to seek pale blood, and so you just continue moving forward. I just want to make sure this is just rule mechanics. You're in a clinic that is clearly been completely outfitted for blood treatments, and you find a beast. You find a four-legged beast, a monstrous beast, eating a corpse. And so it's pretty much either kill or be killed. It really doesn't matter if I kill this thing or not. But okay. And so we get blood vials, which is, oh yeah, we're going to be reading a lot of descriptions. By focusing one's thoughts on this rune, a hunter loses all blood echoes, but awakens afresh, as if it were all just a bad dream. That's kind of interesting. Because it implies that you awake. You awake as if it were a bad dream, suggesting that, you know, where does the line of reality and dream, where is it? You know, you have the hunter's dream, you have this existence, but is there something, is this all just a dream? You know, the ending where you submit your life to Gehrman, it implies that this is all entirely a dream, and he awakens you to the actual reality. If this is all a dream, it would explain why you really can't die, you know. You are practically immortal. You can be sent backwards, and then you can be halted, but you can't really die. Hood warn upon awakening to the nightmare of blood and beasts. Again, nightmare, suggesting this is all one. This is not actually reality. What reality is, you know, beyond this, outside of this, that is not for us to know. We just have no idea. Without memory, who will ever know? So yeah, we have no memory of why we came here. Or what we're doing. And so, personally, I just don't think that we came here with the intention of finding pale blood. I mean, some people are going to argue that. Some people are going to argue that you yourself wrote that note. You left it there because you thought you might lose your memory or something like that. And it's like, oh, well, if you wrote the note, you'd probably write a bit more than that, personally. That's what I think. If you're assuming you're going to lose your memory. Faint memory recalls blood ministration involving the transfusion of unknown blood, not long after the nightmare began. And again, so he says, you know, you may think this all a bad dream. That's what this is. That's what this all is a bad dream. So... oh, I don't get to read the, no, I should be able to... no, I guess I can't read the thing for blood vials until later. So, you... damn it. We can't consider that all Yharnam, all of this, only exists in a dream. There has to be a real Yharnam, you know, outside of all this, because apparently, like, clearly we did come here. Now, if you really want to get metaphysical, you could say that our coming here was not actually in the physical reality. Perhaps we went through some... maybe we died or something and we came here that way. That's just one of those things where you could argue this for hours and not get anywhere just because we have no information. But it's either, you know, there is a real existence outside of this, and we came here from somewhere far away because we're wearing foreign clothes. This is not the common garb of Yharnam, as we just read. So either, you know, we did come here really from somewhere else, and we ended up in this nightmare. Or, you know, you can argue the metaphysical aspect where we were placed here for whatever reason. This is all a dream. We don't know how we got here, and we were just given these clothes to make us think that we're a foreigner. I'll go with the former. I'll go with the first one. Now, of course, it's interesting if we actually did, you know, we did physically come here from a faraway land, for whatever reason. You know, we don't know the reason. People are going to argue that it's because we're sick, but we don't know that for sure. That's never stated. For whatever reason we came here, you know, either we knew that this city was fucked, that it's overrun by beasts and insane people. I think some sort of description somewhere implies that people outside of this city, this land, know that Yharnamites are freaks because of all the blood stuff. You know, they love blood. They drink it and all that. But, I mean, the beast plague, that's really, like, did we come here knowing there was a beast plague, or did we not know? Either way, we miraculously end up safely with no special abilities or stat improvements or anything like that. Miraculously, we end up at a clinic safely where we can get blood administration, and then as soon as the guy administers the blood, he disappears, never to be seen again. Like, why does he disappear? Why does he leave a note? And yeah, that's going with the assumption that he wrote the note. Alright, so the hunter's dream. Yeah, we'll just be traditional, it's fine. Alright. Messengers are inhabitants of the dream who revere the brave hunters. Use them to say, okay, that's about it. So effective at drawing the blood of me. Okay, this saw with its set of bloodletting teeth has become a symbol of the hunt. Not much there. I mean, it's a good question as to why bullets are fused with your own blood, and why it does extra damage against beasts. I mean, that's a reasonable question, right? So, there are a lot of, there are a lot of gravestones in the Hunter's Dream. Many of them have a specific function of taking you to another place in the nightmares, I'm going to consider it. Or to, you know, the dungeons, whatever they're called. I mean, if you look through all there, there's all headstones just all the way down the line. And specifically, there's a point where the doll can be seen kneeling in front of this gravestone up here. And she has dialogue at that. I don't know if I'll ever trigger it. Oh, no, you have to beat the game. And you have to take the bad, you have to submit your life. And she says, "This grave stands in memory of a hunter I once knew. Though enchanted by the dream, he remained strong and eventually saw the light of dawn. I pray you have found meaning and comfort in the waking world." So yeah, this is all, I mean, yeah, I don't know how you could even argue otherwise at that point. That this is all entirely a dream. To escape this dreadful hunter's dream, halt the source of the spreading scourge of beasts, lest the night carry on forever. Which, I mean, yeah, I mean, if you don't complete the game, right, the night will carry on forever. And really, the only way in which you ever see the dawn is if you submit your life to Gehrman. Right? Because otherwise, it just goes on. It's cyclical, which I think is why you see so many headstones. And, you know, all the Soulsborne games are very cyclical in nature. That's the whole point. And so, what exactly is the source of the spreading scourge of beasts? There's a lot of stuff that I'm going to have to just really dig deep and read through and read all these people's theories and discussions about it and things like that. I mean, I really like Bloodborne. It's definitely one of my favorite games, but the lore is always something I've passed over a little bit. But alright, here's Gehrman.
Aha. You must be the new hunter. Welcome to the hunter's dream. This will be your home for now. I am Gehrman, friend to you hunters. You're sure to be in a fine haze about now, but don't think too hard about all of this. Just go out and kill a few beasts. It's for your own good. You know, it's just what hunters do. You'll get used to it. This was once a safe haven for hunters. A workshop where hunters used blood to enhance their weapons and flesh. We don't have as many tools as we once did, but you're welcome to use whatever you find. Even the doll, should it please you. This was
Okay.
You'll even.
So he says, you know, don't think about anything. Just go out and just hunt beasts. That's what hunters do. So yeah, Gehrman is clearly very opposed to the whole beast plague and everything going on in Yharnam. If we're assuming that note was written by him over there in the corner, he doesn't exactly tell you to your face to end the scourge, end this whole plague. He just says, go hunt beasts, don't think about it. He does not even imply himself. He does not imply or state ever that he is a hunter. Um, yeah. I just read through all of his dialogue, apparently, in the game. At no point does he ever say, I was a hunter, or I am a hunter. The only thing he ever says about it is he's a friend to you hunters, and at the end he's a hunter's helper. But, of course, his title, when we fight him, is Gehrman the First Hunter. And through weapon descriptions and things like that, you know, we know that he was a very, very formidable hunter long ago. So if we're going to assume that Gehrman is just completely opposed to beasts, he wants you to hunt down all the beasts, then we're going to have to assume that Nyarlathotep, the Blood Minister, is in league with the beasts. Which might make you question why he's, at the beginning of the game, he gives you basically the ability to hunt down beasts. But I think, you know, I think that's part of just how Nyarlathotep operates. Which, again, is really just sort of my own personal feelings on the matter. But that's most of what this is. So, yeah. I mean, as far as we know, we're contracted to work with this, to become a hunter. But we have a contract with this guy who just disappeared out of thin air. We have no idea who he is. We have no idea what's going on. And then suddenly we show up on this guy, at this guy's doorstep, who tells us, don't think about anything, just hunt. And so, hunt we shall. There's nothing else to do. There's this doll here, and he says you can use the doll, but the doll doesn't do anything. It's an abandoned doll. And of course, we need insight in order to interact with the doll. Which, you know, insight is one of the most Lovecraftian concepts within the entire game. Because insight lets you see beyond the normal veil of reality. And so to a normal, rational, perfectly sane person that has not, you know, reached the higher echelons of sight and knowledge, the doll is just a doll. But once you realize that there is more to existence, you know, there's larger things to reality than just what you know, suddenly the doll is far more than a doll. So, these guys. These are Yharnamites, of course. And, you can see that they have, fur. They're basically like half werewolves, almost. They have... Their hair has just gone wild over their head. Their arms are covered in fur. Their hands are starting to become a bit more claw-like. And so that is, of course, part of the beast plague that is affecting Yharnam. And where this beast plague came from is really sort of a mystery. I don't know if that's ever properly defined, because they have been using they've been using blood treatments, and they've been drinking blood, enjoying blood, utilizing blood for a while. It's enough to get a reputation. But now, suddenly, the Beast Plague is really a problem. And so what I guess I don't understand at this point in time is how long have hunters been hunting? And if the Beast Plague is a really recent development, what were the hunters hunting prior to the Beast Plague? Because if the Beast Plague has been going on for a long time, this city would be in far worse shape. I'm really, from the looks of it, it looks like the Beast Plague has been going on for like 2 days. Just based on the way, there's just some like fires there. Most of the architecture still seems pretty good. Like there's carriages still intact here, things like that. And I don't know if it's ever really properly described when the Beast Plague started and all that. But, you have like hunter weapons that you can find, and they talk about clearly like past history of the development of the weapons and things like that. And so, and I want to say they specifically discussed their usefulness or efficiency against beasts. And I think that's stuff we're gonna sort of learn as we go and discuss. I mean, that's why I'm doing this playthrough, is to really answer all these questions. I mean, specifically, I do want to learn and talk about connections to Cthulhu mythos, but I really need to understand the entire story so I don't miss anything. But basically, the overall gist of the whole blood thing is the Healing Church discovered blood. They discovered a special form of blood underneath the city. And I believe they found a couple different types of special blood. Because there's the blood that they use, they administer to the city and all that, and then there's the forbidden blood. And so, of course, they discovered that the one type of blood could seemingly heal any sickness whatsoever that they found. And so, of course, that made Yharnam very powerful. It made the Healing Church very powerful because they were in charge of it. And I've always assumed, I don't know if it's ever stated, but this was always my assumption, was that since you find, you go to the upper section of the Healing Church, and underneath there, way down underneath there, you find Ebritas, who is seemingly captive in the underneath the Healing Church. And so my assumption was always that they were like continually harvesting the blood off of Ebritas, making her like an unwilling blood donor. Because when you first encounter her, she's not hostile. I say she, but it's a great old one. you know, she's not hostile. So I think they were, she's docile in a way, really. And so they were harvesting the blood off of her, and that's what they were administering to everybody, pumping everybody full of Great Old One blood.
You better up dead.
And and that went on for a while. You know, Yharnam gained a reputation for this ability to heal people with blood. And then suddenly this beast plague broke out, turning all these people that have been utilizing the blood, drinking the blood and taking in the blood, and suddenly they were being somewhat slowly turned into beasts. And so, you know, this is like the earliest stage of the transformation. They grow more hair, and they grow hostile to anybody that's foreign, that doesn't look exactly like them or whatever, that is not covered in hair. But they're also hostile to full-blooded or full transformed beasts. You know, they crucify them or whatever, things like that. So they're just overall hostile, but you know, they're not hostile to each other, because these are just, you know, these are Yharnam residents. These are people just living on this street that formed like a neighborhood watch to take care of problems. And you're considered a problem because you're a foreigner, and those big beasts are considered a problem because, well, obviously. And so, as far as a connection to the Cthulhu mythos, the only thing that I can think of some sort of substance that transforms people into something else is the milk of Shub-Niggurath, which basically transforms people into some sort of monster, whether it's Dark Young or just something else horrific or whatever. The milk of Shub-Niggurath is really not discussed too often. Not by Lovecraft, certainly, but that's really the only thing that I can think of that transforms people in the mythos. And, I mean, I can certainly understand changing it from milk to blood. But either way, it's a substance of a Great Old One, of an outer god, that is being imbibed or administered to human beings. So that's really the only connection I have for that. Yeah. I guess that's about it for now. There's going to be more to talk about once we get to Eileen, because she's a fellow hunter like us, but she is also, not only that, she's not from Yharnam. She's also an outsider, I believe. So she should provide some answers maybe, but probably just more questions. Damn it. Really, it would probably be better if I was just watching somebody else play and talking over them. Since I'm not very good at Bloodborne. And it would be really nice to have another person, like another person here sitting, playing the game, and I can just bounce lore ideas off their head. That would be ideal, but I don't think that's going to happen. I certainly don't know anyone as well versed in the mythos. Unfortunately, I wish I did. I just have friends that refer to Cthulhu as Great Stulu. So, no win there. I don't know if I've ever seen that one before. Alright, let me just read some more items. We're about to wrap up here. One of the oldest hunter tools available in the workshop, right? The oldest hunter tools. Since the tragedy that struck Old Yarnum, fire has become a staple in beast hunt is thought to cleanse impurity. Certain types of beasts have an abnormal fear of flame. So, yeah, Old Yarnum. Now, that could answer some questions. Because the Old Yarnum is, of course, shut away. It's locked up. It's set aside, and people have moved on, and, you know, you don't go back. You don't go to Old Yarnum. When you first go there, the guy says, didn't you see the warning? Turn back at once. Old Yarnum, burned and abandoned by men, is now home only to beasts. They are of no harm to those above. So they basically built, you know, New Yarnum, this city, almost on top of Old Yarnum. And, so clearly this night, what we're experiencing is not the beginning of the Beast Plague. But the Beast Plague must be intermittent. Because they had a Beast Plague back then in Old Yarnum. And they fought it off. They tried to fight it off. They had hunters try to fight it off. And they're like, alright, fuck it, we can't do it. So they shut it off. They shut it, you know, they boarded up the doors. They shut it away. And then they went and they built a new city pretty much on top of it. And they're like, all right, let's start again. Which, of course, I guess plays into the sort of cyclical nature of things. They repeated all of the same mistakes. And now New Yarnum is just going to become another Old Yarnum. So yeah, it seems that the Beast Plague has been around for quite a while. I think that's just how it is. You can't really argue that. Hunters sustained by the dream gain strength from blood echoes. They imbibe the blood with thoughts of reverence, indeed gratitude, for their victims. So yeah, we are sustained by the dream right now, which, you know, that's why we can't really die in a permanent sense or anything like that, but we also can't wake up. We have no way of ourselves waking up from this nightmare. We need Gehrman. Gehrman is the only one that can wake us up. Why he has the power, why he is the master lord of the dream, who knows? But, you know, if we kill Gehrman and we are embraced by the moon presence, we become the new Gehrman. We become the new Lord of the Dream that brings new hunters into the fold. Which means Gehrman is a servant of the moon presence. He has to be in league with the moon presence, because, you know, you either submit your life to Gehrman, or you oppose Gehrman, which means you oppose the moon presence. So I guess they have to be working together. Now, the moon presence we'll talk about a lot in the future. of course. It's one of the most Lovecraftian things in here. But I'm not sure if I exactly have a thought for who the Moon Presence is. I think I was leaning towards Yog-Sothoth. But there's really not a tremendous amount of information about the Moon Presence for me to really declare that. I mean, there's a theory that the Moon Presence is the architect of the hunter's dream. I don't know where the source of that theory comes from. But, I mean, people have written, like, freaking books about this. And here you have something very interesting where some people think that the Moon Presence is Nyarlathotep. And I think they're focusing a little bit too much on, like, a specific, like, artworks of Nyarlathotep in sort of his tentacled form, and they think that resembles the Moon Presence. But then they're saying, like, Gehrman is another form of Nyarlathotep, so he's both the Moon Presence and Nyarlathotep, but that's I'm throwing that one out the door. You kill Gehrman, and then suddenly, from a different direction, the Moon Presence shows up. Yeah, I mean, we're running long here. I don't want to go on in too much detail. But the concept of the Moon Presence is, of course, very important to my whole discussion. And him with that thing working with Gehrman, and the whole concept of the dream is a big deal. Hunters should choose torches not only because the hunt leads them to the darkest nooks, but also because certain creatures they encounter are possessed of a deathly fear of flame. No, I don't know if I have anything to say about that. I mean, it's a very common horror trope, certainly. You know, like going back to like Frankenstein's monster with the, you know, fire bad, you know, stuff like that. I don't know if I have any connection to the mythos though. And again, I think the whole beast concept is a little, that would certainly be stretching for me to really talk about it in relation to the mythos. Because like I said, the entire game is not entirely based around the Cthulhu mythos. I'm just trying to relate as much as I can in a believable way. Alright, let me just get back to the lantern, and we'll wrap it up for this one. Because what I really don't want is for me to go into a theory and then have all these people in the comments be like, you know, that doesn't make any sense. I can't see that. I don't buy that at all. That's not what I want. I want it all to seem like, oh yeah, that's kind of plausible. When the hunt began, the healing church left us, blocking the Great Bridge Cathedral ward as old Yarnum burned to the ground that moonlit night. Alright, so that's a key. There you go. That old Yarnum burned on a night with presumably a full moon. And, of course, tonight, most of the game is about the moon. I don't know if you can see it at this point. Probably. That's the sun. That's not a moon. Maybe the moon doesn't pop up until later, or it's out of view, or something like that. But the moon is very important to all the preceding events. Something happens to Yarnum, and you know, the beast plague and everything sort of acts up when there's a full moon. Now, of course, there's the werewolf connection between all the beasts that resemble werewolves and the full moon, but clearly there's more to it than that. You know, the moon presence, it's known as that. And so the only, I mean, there aren't really any mythos deities, or I don't think there's anything really associated with the moon. Stars, yes, but moon, I don't think so. Maybe I'm not knowledgeable enough. There are moon beasts. That's correct. There are moon beasts in the dream world. And the moon beasts would certainly be right at home in Bloodborne. If you look up artwork of the moon beasts, they are very Bloodborne-esque. Scary and tentacled and no eyes, things like that. But I don't know if I can make any sort of connection about things. I don't think I can do that. So, I don't know. I think that might just be creation for Bloodborne. Alright, I guess that about wraps it up for today. Long video, I know, and just mostly me talking non-stop while I drink rum and cokes, but yeah. Like I said, I don't know if we'll finish this. Really, I wanted a platform where I could go through the game, talk about all this stuff as I'm playing, put it out loud. I could just, you know, play and think about it in my head, but I always find talking about stuff is better. It lets me focus on things that I want to, you know, talk about. Yeah. Alright, so we'll get back to this at some point. But my name is Mangg. Game watching has been Bloodborne. And I'll see you fine folks in the next part.